disappointed that President Obama called those young men out there in Baltimore thugs. And I'm not condoning violence.
Of course not.
But I don't think we should call them thugs because we've positioned them to fail.
Yeah.
And the system has failed them.
It
And
is.
I say to President Obama, you have to remember who you are.
Right.
Don't forget who you are.
Don't forget who you are, brother, up in the White House, you know.
Don't forget who you are. And
you know.
I have grave concerns about President Obama because I feel that it's factual. Check the numbers. Black people have fallen further behind under President Obama. We're being murdered in the streets. We're being murdered in the courtroom. We're being murdered in the boardroom. You've caught the biggest corporations using the N-word. You have to stand up at some point. It's okay to be the president of the United States and also be a black man. It's human. And guess what? People will respect you more if you stop acting like you're not. President Obama is, at this point, a white president in blackface. Black America would have done much better with a white president. Look at the numbers. President Obama, you have let us down tremendously.
Okay.
All right, so I've been looking at this Byron Allen situation. If you don't know who he is, he's a businessman and he's involved in TV networks or whatever. And he's got a lawsuit against Al Sharpton, Comcast, and Time Warner, all these big corporations because they're doing big, huge, major deals that the government has to be involved in because the government does watch, control monopolies and all that. And he's pointing out that resources aren't being used, you know, in a diverse way. And if the government is involved, they have to be. And I was thinking about something that I heard on Sergeant Willie Pete page, and something that happened in one of the interviews, is where this idea that if you're a black guy, a black man, and you have a non-black family, you know, your ability to speak on black issues should be limited or whatever. Like, they want you to help and use your resources from a distance and help. And obviously, you know, I understand the black guy with the non-black children that are biracial and the non-black wife. You know, I don't see them going for that. You know, if you're telling them they got to hide behind closed doors or do things from a distance, they're going to probably just not help at all. And some folks have even gone extreme and say, you know, keep those resources. But I don't think that's thought all the way out and practical. And this is an example of some of these situations. These people who are helping, who have non-black wives, you know, they're the only ones doing something, right? In this case of Byron Allen, what he's fighting for, suing the government, suing Al Sharpton, the Urban League, and the NAACP, because these are black organizations, quote unquote, or, you know, entities that they're not doing the right thing with the resources. They're getting their checks and their money, and they're helping their families out, but it's not translating down to regular folks. So, you know, I'm just trying to process how thought out that is. And even on this episode or the interview, a caller called in, and he was straightforward, like, you know, I don't like you saying that it's a black-owned business, which, you know, Byron Allen, he's using his own resources. He's on that Dame Dash. He's reinvesting his own money, you know, to do these things. So he goes for broke. Like, he does it, you know, he doesn't take these loans and all that. He uses his own money, and he makes sure he owns everything he does, which is a problem with black folks, is we don't comprehend ownership. You know, we end up selling or just being brands. But technically, yes, he's doing everything with his own money, and he owns what he does. But because he has a non-black wife, I mean, his wife is white and his children are mixed, you know, when he dies, his resources, yes, they will go to his white wife and his biracial children. So some folks are using that as an excuse not to support him, and I get it. I get that is a bad look. I get the imagery of it. You know, he's trying to be a black billionaire, and he has, you know, a white wife, and I get some folks feel some type of way about all that. But this idea that I'm trying to understand, this idea of, you know, black folks who are in that situation should, you know, be behind the lines, or they can't interject, you know, certain conversations when they're the only ones doing it, right? He's pointing out that a lot of these people who are supposed to be doing things in your best interest, they aren't doing it. They're getting these deals, and, you know, the Urban League and Al Sharpton, these how he got his show on MSNBC, what he had to do to get it. Basically, he pimps and extort companies. If you say that we're a good company and we do business in the black community and we help, we share our resources in the environments in which we do business, they get a pass. And the government says, okay, good, he's good. They can do the deal. And that's not happening. Byron Allen is the only one doing it. So how does that work, though? If he's the only one dealing with this issue, and the root.com and all that, because of the clip you saw earlier, they're doing articles on this man. Of course, he's being thrown into the Coon and Uncle Tom category because of what he said about Obama, even though he supported Obama in both elections. He even said himself in an interview he's given enough money to Obama's campaign to pay for a house in cash. So it's like he's used his resources. He helped push to promote Obama. Now that Obama isn't doing what he was supposed to do or what he thinks he should be doing, he's taken back. And I can respect that. If you vote for a certain politician and you cater for them, you spend your money and resources, you promote them because they presented certain ideas, and when they're not following up, get them. And Byron Allen has done that, but because he's spoken out about the president and what he's not doing, he's losing favorability amongst black people. So, and that's the standard. I understand that. Same thing with Dr. Cornel West. I did the video about the beef between him and Michael Eric Dyson. When black people who are in a position of power or influence, when they come out against the president, they're kind of shunned and they're pooped on, even by the black electorate, because they want to give Obama the pass. The people don't want to call him out on his board. They want to just let him, they're more about the symbolism rather than, what gets done. Again, remember, black folks are more about imagery over implementation. So they're going to, no matter, even though blacks are doing worse under the first quote-unquote black president, it's everyone else's fault. Even though every issue on black issues was done before, had to be addressed by white politicians. But for some reason, they're going to give Obama a pass. The gay community didn't give him a pass. The Mexicans who ain't supposed to be here, their parents snuck in the country illegally and they're born, and they're not supposed to be here, yet they still not even going to give him a pass. So the idea that black folks is a little bit silly. But I do want to know feedback and thoughts, because I want to see that thought out more. Because if you got Byron Allen as the only one who's doing this, what he's doing, and people were asking in the root, who is he and what has he done and who is he to talk? And I'm like, do you not realize he's responsible for several black shows being on TV? I think in 2012 there were like no black sitcoms, and he was responsible for getting shows on the Disney Channel, and he is responsible for, I think, 3 black judges shows being on the air. He did that. And if it wasn't for his influence or his interjection, they might not be there. So if you want to go with the narrative that because he has a non-black wife and he shouldn't speak on black issues, well, he's the only one speaking on this specific issue. No one else is doing what he's doing, right? And then he's also using his resources to make sure that black people are employed when it comes to television and in the media and black news sources. He wants those advertisement dollars to be shared evenly across the board. So if your whole mindset is, he has a black wife, he doesn't have a black wife and black children, so I'm going to completely write him off, I think that logic is dangerous, because, again, he's the only one doing it. If there were like 5 or 6 other brothers doing it, then you could say, shoot him off, and we're not going to pay attention to him because he doesn't have a black wife, if you're about that. But being that he's the only one doing it, I don't think that makes sense. But I'm going to play a clip of what he was saying and how that caller called in. Byron Allen conceded to the point. He's like, yeah, my children are not black. My wife is white. When I die, my resources will not go to any black community, but it will go to them. He acknowledged that point. But does that stop him from doing what he's doing? Does that make what he's doing any less valuable? I don't know. And then, he's already getting crapped on because, he spoke out against Obama now. So that alone has him upset. Has black folks not feeling him, even though he's doing what he's doing in the interest of black folks, right? I don't know, it's crazy. But let's check out this clip.
Goliath situation here. with Byron facing off against Comcast and Time Warner and the Reverend Al. We have a caller on the line.
Yeah, well, I was going to say, and he's calling long distance, so we want to get him into the conversation, so and so he can continue listening. Jay is reaching out to us from New York. Good afternoon, Jay. Welcome to Real Black.
Yes, good afternoon to you and to your calls and to Mr. Allen. I just have like two quick questions. Number one, I would just like to say that I really respect Mr. Allen's business model. I think he's innovative in what he's doing in regards to TV. I see that Al Heyman is now doing it with boxing. My first question to Mr. Allen is, are you the sole owner of your company, Mr. Allen?
Yes, and that's a great question. I am the sole owner. I started it from my dining room table. I own it 100%. I wasn't able to get any investors, and I started with one television show, and I called every television station in the country from sunup to sundown for 1 year, all 1,300 stations, and asked them to carry my weekly 1-hour show for free. And I said, there's 14 minutes of commercial time. I'll keep 7 minutes and sell it to national advertisers. You keep 7 minutes television station and sell it to local advertisers. And I did that for a year, and after about 40,000 no's, I got about 150 yeses. And my home I couldn't find anybody to buy my advertising time, and my home went in out of foreclosure probably 14 times over about a 4-year period. I had timed it that I would just pay my mortgage on the 89th day so that it wouldn't go into that next level of foreclosure when it's like day 91. And that's how I, tried to eat some days. There were days I didn't eat. There were days my phone was turned off, and we had pay phones back then, and I would call people from a pay phone. And, I couldn't get anybody to buy my advertising time, and I finally turned the corner, and I got the movie studios to come on board because I said, look, I'm having your movie stars on to talk about your movies.
Right.
Please support me so I can be there to support you. I knew the numbers, which is what I always say to Black America. Know the numbers, get a calculator, live by the calculator, and live by accountability. Those two things, the numbers, a calculator, and accountability. And they said, yeah, you're right. We're spending $200 million a year to tell people to go see movies per studio. And I said, just throw me a little bit so I can be there to help tell people to go see your movies. And once I solidified the movie studios, I went on to the next industry, and put on another show and another show. And we had 22 years later, which is where we are now. And we have the largest privately held television library in the world, close to 5,000 hours, 36 television shows on the air, and 7 24-hour HD networks. And yes, wow. I own it 100%. And that wasn't by design. Capital wasn't made available to me. Banks didn't offer me money. Investors didn't come to me. They came to my white counterparts, but they acted like I was invisible. And that's okay, because that pushback, that resistance made me stronger. And when my counterparts hit some headwinds, they collapsed quickly because they didn't have to use their muscle as much as I did. I had to bob and weave since day one. I had to figure out how to keep going when I was hungry, when I couldn't, when the phones were turned off, when my home was about to be taken. And finally, I didn't realize how much it had gone in and out of foreclosure until I went to go buy a car, and this guy basically looked at my credit and said, your credit's so bad, I'm not even sure I can take your cash.
But the idea of 100% ownership is a real serious thing that we'll explore in just a moment. I want to get back so Jay can ask his second question.
Excuse me. See, this is where the issue is really going to come into play. Mr. Allen says that his company is 100% black. Technically, he may correct in all actuality.
Well, I was going to say, Jay, you're breaking up pretty badly. I don't know if you're moving around in your building or if you got some other interference.
Yeah, listen, the reason why I'm saying 100% black-owned is what's happening is we have too many scenarios where people are window dressing for what is really white ownership and management. Mm-hmm. And it's a unique voice, your radio station. You are beholding to no one. You're being authentic, and you're of the community, and that's going to be of great service to the community. And this is where you have to hold the FCC accountable. And you have to say to them, hey, we have to have more ownership and diversity in ownership. And that's the other thing. I say, hey, Black America, be very careful of words like diversity and minority, because the definition of diversity, that's women, and quite often white women.
Yeah.
And so now you're at the back of the bus again. So Comcast immediately said, we're proud of our diversity record when this lawsuit came out. And if you really go deeper, somebody wrote an article, and that's one of the great things about this lawsuit. A lot of information's coming out, especially at our website, which is N as in Nancy, AAAOM, NAAAOM.com, and people are registering. And we're finding out that the diversity spend is less than 0.4% as it relates to African Americans.
Wow.
0.4%. And that's why I say get a calculator and hold them accountable. See, you can't be Comcast unless you wire all the major black cities. It's mathematically impossible. So 40% of their revenue is coming from black households because of all the black neighborhoods they had to buy and own and control to even be the number one cable operator, approximately 22 million cable homes. They take in $100 million a day, $3 billion a month, close to $40 billion a year from homes paying their cable bill, with 40% of that money coming from black homes. And they have 500 channels. And I said back in 2010, none of those channels are 100% black-owned, and that's unacceptable.
Well, now, Byron, just to being devil's advocate, I get that cable bill every month too. And they got some black channels. I tune in. I watch Balance. I watch CD1. I watch BET.
This isn't black targeted, and I'm proud of all the black targeted. This is black owned. Hey, Black America, it's okay for you to be extremely wealthy. It's okay for you to have an enormous amount of money, and that starts with ownership. I'm not talking about black targeted, and I'm not talking about black faces. This is black ownership. You can't build a company like mine unless you own the content. You got to own it. You can't have that kind of wealth in your community until you own it. And you have to see a lot of what's going on in this country and what we're seeing in terms of the racial tension in 2015. It's a direct relationship to the economic exclusion. When you have people who are educated and have money, they're not murdering you in the street. That is all of what you're witnessing, that economic genocide. Now that I've pushed you out and with no education and no capital, I can start to dehumanize you, and now I can demonize you, and I can even murder you on tape, and for the world to see and not get an indictment.
Right.
Because you have been demonized. See, that's about not having that economic inclusion, the fourth and final chapter that Coretta Scott King shared with me.
Yeah, we have. I'm sorry, we have Jay back on the line.
Yeah, I was going to say, Jay, I think he cleared up his signal. Jay, we need to kind of get you back right to your question if you can.
Right. My thing is, I have to disagree with Mr. Allen when he says that his company is black-owned. In regards to that, reality is he's married to a white woman, so if anything happens, she's going to get a piece of it. And all this really boils down to is this. Mr. Allen would like to own more stations on the format of cable, and in order to do that, he must have this lawsuit. The reality is his wife is white, and he's going to leave it to her or to his biracial children, and that no longer makes it 100% black-owned. And that's a reality that we in the community must face. And I respect the man for what he's doing, but he needs to be more upfront and honest.
Okay, well, thank you, Jay. I don't know if you want to address that.
Well, now, I was just going to say that, I mean, if everybody sitting in this room employed by this station in the black community starts playing the percentages game about how black are you, quote unquote, and how that works, the numbers will never work out in our favor. I think it is important, though, if we're going to play a numbers game with this, Mr. Allen, if you could talk a little bit more about how you set the values for the money that you designate in the lawsuits and how that applies to what benefit that will provide if you come out on top of this.
Well, first of all, I want to speak to his statement. You know what? Yes, she is. But like Martin Luther King said, don't judge me by the color of by the color of my skin, but the content of my character. Don't tell me the color of her skin. Tell me about the content of her character. Mm-hmm. And you should love your best friend, and you should be with whoever treats you with enormous respect. And the first thing we have to do in our community, we can't be racist. Mm-hmm. We must do exactly what Martin Luther King died for, to be judged by the content of one's character, not the color of their skin. Now, I am African American, and obviously everybody, if you get into the percentages, who knows all the different whatever it is. But by definition, that is who I am, and that is the very definition of what America will say to me, which is great. I love it. I'm proud of it. So what you have to stay focused on is getting in the game. You're not in the game. You're out of the game. And you're out of the game by design. And you're out of the game because it was built that way. So now to go to your question, Stephanie Renee, because I want to answer all questions. And because there is nothing to skirt or hide from. I'm very open. I'm very proud. I don't do anything in the dark that you have, because I know everything's going to come to light. Mm-hmm. I don't smoke. I don't drink. I don't do drugs, and I never started. And I never started because I never wanted to start anything other people were trying to quit.
Right. How about that?
Life has enough obstacles. Why trip yourself up? Okay?
Mm-hmm.
So I'm about, hey, America, let's get stronger. And the way we get stronger is when all of us are engaged. Half the women in this country are living at or below the poverty line. My mother went to UCLA and got her master's degree in cinema TV production.
Nice.
And because she's at UCLA getting her master's in cinema TV production, guess what? It's not a surprise that her son is the largest independent producer, black or white, on planet Earth. Her success is my success. If the women succeed, if the mothers succeed, so do the children. And quite often, if they fail, so do the children. So now to the lawsuit. It's in federal court in Los Angeles. And that lawsuit is to say you must include us. You can't spend $50 billion a year and black folks get nothing, because those are jobs. Now let's look at the shows I've put on. I have 5 court shows on the air, 4 in production. 1, Judge Ross, the first one to be put on, an African-American male. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
The most targeted person in America, the African-American male. I put him on America's Court and a very positive role model. He's a judge. Then we put on Christina Perez, 3-time Emmy winner, Christina Perez. We put on Judge Karen, sister out of Miami. We put on Maybelline, sister out of L.A.
Mm-hmm.
So there's 3 hours a day right there of African-American judges that are positive on television and a positive role model. Now, go back to 2012. In 2012, there are no African-American family sitcoms on broadcast television. None. 0.
Right.
Beautiful Family in the White House, but not one on TV. So I put on The First Family, which stars Christopher Duncan, Kalita Smith, Marla Gibbs, Jack A., John Witherspoon. The Cosbys in the White House. Okay?
Right.
Then I put on Mr. Box Office. Along with it, Bill Bellamy plays a Will Smith, the biggest movie star in the world, with John Lovitz and Vivica Fox and Essence Atkins and on and on and on. Tim Meadows. There are 3 sitcoms in production featuring African-American families. I produced 2 of them.
Mm-hmm.
So who I'm married to doesn't matter.
Right.
You need to ask. You need everybody. I say, if I see a sister married to a white guy, I don't care. All I want to know, that guy is treating her with the utmost love and respect.
So we've got about a minute and a half.
All right, so yeah, that's that happened, and I'm just trying to understand how far folks are really trying to draw it out. Yeah, again, I understand for folks it does matter to them. The point of it, you're promoting this idea of a black-owned company and the black, businessman, and you're doing things for your people and your community. And again, I understand that folks still will dumb it down all to, well, your wife is not black. So, and I don't know if the guy who called in was saying, well, maybe you should just not call it a black-owned company, because when you die, that company won't be in the hands of black people anymore, but your white wife and your biracial children. So but I just want to know how far folks really want to draw it out, because some folks, again, I've been extreme in saying you got to do what you do in the low, in the corner, in the back, or you can help black folks, but you just can't be promoted and be out front with it, and because black people, especially black women, are gonna just always look at that like, you're a billionaire and you're promoting your beautiful biracial family, and that makes some folks feel some type of way. I just want to know how far folks are drawing that out, though, because this is an example, and there's probably other examples where, the guy with the non-black wife is doing more than the black men with black wives. So it's like, what do you do?